Meet SAE International. You might not know us, but we've been with you. For the past 100 years, we've been revolutionizing transportation and mobility, partnering and supporting the dreamers, innovators, and can-doers who are changing the world. It's the child whose future career as an engineer will be shaped by our STEM education programs. It's the businesswoman boarding her flight with peace of mind, knowing that our committees have created the standards that ensure she gets from Detroit to Delhi and back again safely. It's the parents-to-be who are sleeping soundly, knowing that their electric car is fully charged and ready when it's go time. Driven by a passion to advance mobility knowledge and solutions, SAE's global community of over 200,000 engineers, technical experts, and volunteers continues to develop and curate the most reliable and comprehensive collection of engineering resources and consensus-based standards on Earth. The next mobility revolution is upon us. Connected and automated, electrified and sustainable. SAE will be here, as we have for the last 100 years, moving the world forward.
Hey everybody, Mark Zachos here. Welcome to Supercharged. Today we've got a really cool guest, Chris Fox. He's with Munro Associates. We're going to go behind the scenes there. So what does that mean? Well, you know that Munro and SAE Detroit, those guys come together. We've come together and done some interesting events jointly today. Welcome, Chris. You're going to take us behind the scenes there and see, you know, the real world. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're out there in the real world, mission control there, and somewhere in a secret place in the country. We won't disclose, you know, what's going on. You know, what's going on with you today. Who are you? Where? Well, you don't have to tell us where you're at, but you know, welcome to the show. And introduce yourself, please.
So I'm Chris Fox with Munro Associates, the low voltage systems lead and ADAS lead for our small EV programs, and also dabble a bit into our appliance division as well.
Well, I didn't even know you had appliances, so that's interesting.
Yes, interesting spread.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that too. Well, I mean, everybody knows that this Munro Live and is very famous. Sandy has really done a fantastic job in growing that that part of your audience and the world world famous, really. So let's see here. Let's start off and figure out where that's all coming from. What's the background there, please?
Sure. So even though, like you mentioned, we're most known for Munro Live, that's really not our core competency. It's collectively a small sliver of the entire company. That's not to downplay what those guys do. I mean, it's definitely changed the company as a whole, and they've done a fantastic job keeping the momentum. So even though the first episode aired in 2020, the seeds for Munro Live are really planted back in 2013. When we did the I3 analysis, we toyed with a live feed, and we did a bolt teardown in 2015, 2016, somewhere in that ballpark. Again, we did live feed, and honestly, a live feed of a teardown gets really boring really fast. And watching people cough map is even more boring. We'll get to that later. And then we got our hands on a early production Tesla Model 3 which I think you guys might have come for that tour. That would have been 2018.
Yep.
That kind of put us on the roadmap of some other, we were kind of like an industry's best kept secret up until that point. And then 2020, the pandemic happened. Everyone is working from home. We got a Model Y pretty early in the pandemic, and we just decided to roll with the show. But I do want to reiterate that Sandy is not acting. Like, that's not a persona he puts on just for the show. Like, that is 100% Sandy as you see it.
Well, I watched one of those shows, and you know, he's really good, right? And your team is really good, and the production there is pretty clever. What about that one time when that must have been faked, when he fainted there, when you're doing the tear down on the Mach-E or whatever it was?
Mildly exaggerated, but not outside of the possibility.
Well, there's quite an interesting thing there that every show is very interesting. How do they ever get a hold? You said the Model Y. Is that you just call your friendly Tesla dealer and say, "Hey, I want a car, get on the list," just a regular, you know, off the production line order? Is that typically how you do any vehicle?
Normally that's how we do it, but getting a Tesla in Michigan, where we're located, is a bit more difficult than it should be. So if I'm not mistaken, I think Sandy went on Autoline with Mark McElroy. One interview and said, "Hey, we want to buy a Tesla model, whatever, sell us one, the first one you got, and we'll take it from there, because it's faster than going through a dealership."
Well, if they find out that you're from Munro and Associates, do they, you know, want to give you that or anything?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yeah.
And then what do you do after you're done? You put it all back together or whatever?
No. We get that question a lot, but no, the parts stay on display. We've got A-frames, basically large pegboard walls and rollers. We'll hang the parts up by system. And we'll do tours after the fact as well. So if someone wants to come in and see, you know, how does the battery come together? Well, here's all the battery stuff. Well, how does the seats go together? Well, here's all the seat stuff in one A-frame.
But is that all, the A-frame, is it all static, or do you plug it all back together and power it up again, or?
No, nothing ever gets repowered.
Oh yeah, that's too dangerous, maybe, I don't know.
In many cases, yeah. And the only thing we repowered for one of the shows that I'm aware of was an airbag, just to show up.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
I'm sure that freaked out the neighbors, because I don't think we told them that was going on.
But, you know, you need special tools and things like that to take it apart, or you guys got everything you need there, huh?
Basic mechanics tool set, you know, a set of sockets, wrenches, stuff like that. Really anybody can tear down a car if you have enough mechanical aptitude, the right tool set, a good set of patience, and the service manual go a long way as well. But you do learn tricks of the trade to get into weird stuff, like, you know, the high security bolts. There are ways around those. I get into ECUs using paper clips and a can opener. And I mean, eventually you find tricks of the trade to get through.
Now, you mentioned that, you know, you can show this on a video. It's not the same as being live and watching it in person. And I'm sure there's, you know, security, and you don't let anybody in off the street and that sort of thing. But here in Detroit's SAE section, one of the big things that we're, or any place in SAE, is the next generation of engineers, right? So we have a World in Motion program where SAE volunteers go to elementary schools and middle schools and try to teach a little bit about engineering and what an engineering profession might lead to. We have collegiate design series. You went to University of Detroit, right? Did you get a co-op position? How did you get into that world of you know, getting your hands dirty and working on cars? I mean, this, to me, it's really cool, but, you know, let's share how we can help the next generation.
Yeah, so co-ops, I did my first co-op at Automotive Component Holding, which is, at the time, it was a section being sold off between Ford and Valeo.
That's right.
Building radiators and heater cores. Then I did 2 rounds at TRW's hydraulic slip control on ABS units. That was before it was ZF. Graduated, worked for Detroit Diesel for a brief period, and then 3 of the guys I went to school with got jobs at Munro, and they sort of just pulled me on board there.
Yeah. So I think, having that co-op that was hands-on really helps wherever you go to work. And
it does.
I think you can reinforce that. We one of the things that we want to know, though, is whether you're a young, fresh out graduate, or anyone that's been in the profession, going back to Munro and Associates, behind the scenes then. So what's the opportunities there? What do you guys actually do? And I mean, Sandy's the regular guy, right? When you get to know him, or is he kind of like just made up on TV? I don't know.
Yeah, I think before we get into what we do, we kind of have to understand the background of the company a bit and how Sandy and all that falls into play. So Sandy left Ford in the mid 80s. He became a Deming disciple. For the younger audience, Edward Deming basically revolutionized manufacturing. He's most well known like the World War II era. Sandy's not that old, okay. But basically Deming, shall we say, revitalized the, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the airport, Willow Run Airport.
Right.
Where it took like days upon days to build certain airplane wings. Deming went in, okay, let's look at the design, because the design dictates everything. Like, you can nickel and dime stuff to make it cheaper all day long, but in all of actuality, you got to go back to the drawing board and design it right in the first place. Design for manufacturing, design for assembly. And then he got the airplane wings built within hours instead of days or weeks, whatever it was. So Sandy really clung on to that. So he began Munro Associates in '87 with 3 employees, did mostly consulting and teaching lean design principles, which is basically more Deming. And then they established the BIC, Benchmarking Information Center, or Best in Class Center, depending on who you ask. It's sort of, the name has sort of devolved from the customer base. We're on our 3rd building, to the best of my knowledge. As the company has grown over the years, we've taken on more and more projects. And despite being the star of Munro Live, he still runs the company. So anybody who gives him crap about saying every other word, he's not just the YouTube guy. He is still running a company. So he's not the typical CEO, is up in his ivory tower and everyone fears him. Like, he's very hands-on. It's harder to find him on the shop floor because you have no idea what project he's looking into at any given time.
Yeah, well, you can't take the engineer out of the engineer a lot of times, right?
No, old habits die hard. You just can't do that.
Right. So going back to, lean design and principles and your benchmarking work that you do, that's kind of hard to, well, maybe at least in college, engineering school, that's kind of hard to teach there. I think, you taught it. There's different seminars you can go to, you can learn about this stuff. How important do you think that really is for new engineers, new folks coming into the industry that design for manufacturing, whether it's in mechanical assembly or electronic assembly? What are your thoughts there?
Whether you're building or designing something as simple as a candy bar, or something mass produced like that, or something that's really complicated and one-off like a satellite, it's equally important. I would argue if you have the opportunity in college, definitely take one of the lean design certification courses, which we offer. It will get you up to speed on that. It won't make a whole lot of sense until you're in the industry, but I think it gives you a cutting edge, because it also allows you as an engineer to dive between, the 10,000 viewpoint of here's the entire product, the system level, the part level, to individual features of that part, and why you can't just chase down part cost all the time, that every decision you make has a ripple effect. And I think that's kind of missing in most educational realms.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's go to the next point that you have queued up there. That's actually what you guys do as a day job, right? Those are things that. So can you lead us through this?
Yeah. So this is what Munro does on a daily basis, is mostly cost mapping and redesigning. So normally what happens is the customer comes to us and says, okay, here's the product we have in the market. Here are our next equivalent competitors. We'll tear them down, we'll map them out, which is what you see here, this map. This is our proprietary software called Design Profit. And every symbol in the map will represent a part, a subassembly, a step, manufacturing or modification. And we'll go through activity-based costing, if you will. So instead of just saying, oh, a control arm is always X number of dollars, we'll go through, okay, how much raw material did it have? How many cavities did this casting require? What are all the machining steps on this? Where was it made? Was it made in Vietnam? Was it made in Mexico? Was it made in Germany? That'll all dictate quite a bit too. But in the lower left, this is a snapshot of a map where we'll take from raw material, from your ingots and pellets, go through, okay, we have to melt it down, we have to press it into whatever, we have to do machining or cleaning or baking or painting, so on and so forth. And now that part goes into a subassembly, and now an operator's got to pick up a screw, they got to pick up a screwdriver, they got to run it down, so on and so forth. So every step is captured. It does take some time to do this properly. And obviously, like a CEO is not going to care a whole lot about that. What they're going to care about is what you see on the right-hand side, is the executive summary, where we take all of that data, all of that analysis, and it's all translated to dollars. Because once you put it into units of currency, it doesn't matter your entry-level co-ops, your CEO, everyone understands the dollars or whatever your currency is in your area. And with this, we can show, okay, here's where you stand on your current product, here's where competitors stand within any given complete product, within a system, within equivalent parts. And then more importantly, as a customer, if you were to make these changes, if you're to change from a stamped whatever to a cast to injection molding, this is what it would cost, this is what it would weigh, this is what the capital investment changes would be, so on and so forth. So it allows engineers, managers, C-suite, whatever, to make very informed decisions without taking a whole lot of risk then, because now you know what your options are and everything is in dollars. So it doesn't matter if you have, you know, the coolest space age, whatever, it's in dollars. There's no emotion involved in it anymore.
Right. So let me ask you a couple more questions about this. I think there's some kind of ECU down there in the lower right corner.
Yeah, this is an example out of a Tesla Model 3 report.
So do you go into the level of detail of the manufacturing point of manufacture? It's so interesting that you can actually, I don't know, detect, uncover, inspect, and get to that level of granularity. How long does it take you to get something like that ECU done? Is that a one-year project, or?
It varies on the complexity. Some ECUs that we know are commodities, we'll just assume are commodities. The other ones, yeah, we will crack them open, we'll cost the housings, whether they were stamped, cast, injection molded, whatever. And then we've got a couple guys who will go in, look at the PCBAs, we'll identify every capacitor, every resistor.
Wow.
Yeah, that takes a long time to do, but not every customer requires that.
Right.
Some of the PCBAs, yeah, those can take weeks, if not months to do, depending on how complicated they are. Like some of the ADAS stuff where you're getting proprietary chips, yeah, you're talking weeks, if not months to do that. A simple like part control ECU or radar, yeah, those are a few days to a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's not as bad as I would have thought. What about that wire harness there? So is that wire harnesses are relatively easy, or, you know, they could be more complicated depending on options and so on, eh?
The steps required for it are pretty straightforward. It's just a lot of repetition. You know, measure the wire. Okay, how long was it? We got to cut the length. We got to strip the ends, terminate, put the terminals in a TPA, CPA, whatever it is. We got to cost that TPA or CPA connector, and then we got to go through, okay, how much convolutes on here, how much tape, and there'll be an entire bill of materials that goes through this, you know, what gauge wires were used, every connector, if we can identify the manufacturer of every connector. In most cases, a lot of the TPAs and CPAs, you don't really need to know the supplier on those because those are relatively commoditized and not really, like between TE, Tyco, Molex, like none of them really have a super distinct cost advantage, really.
Yeah, and then all that, well, when you get to that level of componentry, right, it has a lot to do with purchasing agreements and so forth.
Glad you brought that up. Yes, purchasing does come from different companies, do come to us, and we'll do sanity checks, and we'll say, hey, this is our whatever component, wire harness, for example. You know, we got quoted at X number of dollars. What should this cost? And we'll go through, run our magic, and say, this is what it should cost. And now you have ammunition to take back to the supplier, going, okay, this is the tool you probably have. This is how many people you probably have if you're manufacturing it in, you know, Honduras or Vietnam or whatever. This is how much it should cost. At the same time, we can use that for reshoring studies as well, which we're doing quite a bit of that with the appliance market lately.
Yeah, okay. So maybe one more thing talk about before we wrap it up. You said appliance market. So it's just not for automotive. Hey, you do have branched out into other areas. That's it. Appliances are very competitive, right? We know that.
Yes, every penny counts when it comes to the appliances. But yeah, appliances is nothing really new that we started. Before Munro Live, a good chunk of our business was probably 80% automotive, 20% appliances, and it's kind of balanced out at this point. We also have a Department of Defense group, software group. What else do we get into? It's kind of like Pawn Stars in many ways. Like, you really never know what's going to come through that door. I mean, we've done medical equipment, recliners, Barbie, candy bars. Like, nothing is really off limits.
But it has to be a physical entity, right? You can't do this on software, can you?
No, we don't get. We develop some software like what you see here, but no, we don't do like reverse engineering the software, like trying to do. You know,
right.
One of our partners, 3IS, will do some of that, but yeah, like the can sniffing and network topology is about as far as we go. But we don't get into like the decision criteria of the ECU. You know, if this, then this. We don't get to that level of detail.
Yeah. So those are another interesting frontier there. So, you know, where will you take us in your future missions? I don't know, but that's very interesting.
That's up to the customer base.
Yeah, customer driven. Yeah, that's another great thing. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today. This has been super informative and a great discussion. I think if our audience wants to learn some more about all of this, they can, you know, Google you all, reach out. We're also going to put up on the screen here contact information for SAE Detroit. You can follow us on your social media platforms. And if you just want to reach out to me, I'm the current chairman of the SAE section. So Detroit section knows how to get a hold of me. Send me an email.
I would hope so.
would glad to hear from you. So thanks, Chris. Appreciate you joining us. And till next time, everyone, have a great day, a supercharged day. Thank you for joining.
Sure. Thank you very much.